Adolf Hitler signs a document at the beginning of the war with Poland, 1939. A French soldier writes a letter during a break between the battles of the Verdun meat grinder, 1916. Chinese Americans protest against scrap metal exports to Japan. Your children and wives could be next. This metal will be turned into bullets, 1939. In the early last century, weight loss products were extremely dangerous. Pills containing dinitrophenol were sold. They prevented calories from turning into fat, but caused lethal poisoning. Dolce & Gabbana advertising campaign, 1987. In the 18th century, admission to the exotic animal collection at the Tower of London cost either a penny and a half or a cat or dog. They were used to feed the lions. A grim spectacle at a London fair. Black people are used as targets. England, 1975. The miraculous survivors from the 87th floor of the World Trade Center, New York, September 11th, 2001. In 18th century England, rapists always walked free. If the victim did not become pregnant, the crime was not considered proven. If she did become pregnant, the court ruled that she had received pleasure, and the offender was acquitted. The active train designed in the USSR in the 70s. Combat donkey Turkey, 1930s. 3 years of war between these portraits. President Joe Biden in his youth, 1960s. The surrender of the Japanese naval base Kurihara, located on the island of Honshu, 1945. A Japanese man hands his sword to an American with a severe violation of sword etiquette, the hilt under the right arm and the sharp blade facing forward. From the Japanese perspective, he is deeply insulting the American. The American doesn't care and isn't even aware. Nuremberg's kind hangman, John Woods. When his victim was suspended in the air, he would grab their legs and hang with them, shortening the suffering of the person dangling in the noose. He died in 1950 from an electric shock while repairing wiring in his own home. Japanese prisoners of war with heads bowed listened to the announcement of Japan's unconditional surrender, September 2nd, 1945. A common punishment in Mongolia for criminals who were put in a small box that they couldn't even fit into and displayed publicly while being subjected to starvation. One of the first home vacuum cleaners, Siemens Elmo, 1906. The uniform of Archduke Franz Ferdinand from 1914, whose assassination triggered the start of World War I. Wives from the harem of the Persian Shah, Nasreddin Shah Qajar, 1870s. This photo shows a Karelian tradition. For the first 6 months after marriage, a bride would kneel and ask her mother-in-law for blessings before starting any household task. Ayrati Yanutru Tonutru Nangu. Republicans were inspired by abstractionism and surrealism. They created special torture chambers for captured Francoists during the Spanish Civil War. These rooms contained beds with a 20-degree incline, floors with randomly placed bricks, and paintings on the walls. Torture also included watching the film Un Chien Andalou. A boy plays with a homemade toy truck made of wire. Maun, Botswana, 1974. A British sailor saws off the shackles of a slave, which the man had worn for 3 years. A woman carries a sewing machine on her head, using the local method of carrying. Women from these regions usually carry water jugs on their heads. Kuwait, 1955. German soldiers preparing the execution of Yugoslav partisan Lepa Radic, Yugoslavia, 1943. World War I. The trenches were so infested with rats that you could catch nearly 100 rodents in 10 minutes. Soldiers had to sleep in these same trenches. Sword Swallower, 1928. An X-ray of the sword swallower, one of the most unique photos of that period. Germans with local Russian women in occupied territory, 1943. Execution in Turkey in the 18th century. A woman caught in a sexual act before marriage was sewn into a sack with cats and drowned. A World War II propaganda poster. Japan actively campaigned against colonial powers, targeting empires like Great Britain. The daily life of a theatrical agent, 1950s. Chains used on patients in old psychiatric asylums. Prostitute's timer. In the late 19th century, French prostitutes kept sets of candles like these. Each candle burned for about 7 minutes and was lit at the beginning of a session. Many will smirk, just 7 minutes. Many will call the girls lazy, and they wouldn't be wrong. Cyclists, scooter riders, and motorcyclists have been irritating other road users since 1900. Family portrait during the Spanish flu, 1918. In 1950, the Ortho Company noticed a drop in demand for ammonium sulfate and decided it was time for a bold change in advertising strategy. In October 1989 in the USSR, a torpedo accidentally struck a submarine when the crew forgot to turn off its homing system during an exercise. The commander of the stricken submarine broadcast an emotional, profanity-laced message over the air. Lava flows engulfing a village west of Vesuvius, 1944. A black rally in Russia, 1963. Africa, Sudan, school class, 1954. Breakup letter from Tupac to Madonna in 1995, written while in Rikers Island prison. He admits that being in a relationship with a white woman could hurt his reputation among fans. Patient undergoing treatment for mental illness, Germany, 1890. Soviet militia disperses a rally near the U.S. Embassy in the USSR, with the crowd chanting, "Freedom for Lebanon," 1958. These 19th century photographs illustrate various levels of intoxication, 1860s. A young woman looks for the ring she accidentally dropped, USA, 1959. Under the supervision of Turkish army officers, Kurdish children write on a blackboard, "How happy is he who calls himself a Turk?" Women cooking in a half-destroyed oven, Belarus, World War II, 1942. Where did the phrase "no risk, no champagne" come from? In the past, wine had a tendency to explode in France. Going down to the cellar for a bottle of champagne was quite a risk. People would go in special protective suits to guard against flying shards. Sommeliers from that time often lacked fingers or an eye. A father looks for his 2 missing sons during the Kosovo War in 1999. He would later find them. The Great Wall of China is regretfully called the longest cemetery in the world. Thousands of people are buried inside it. They died carrying enormous boulders to construct the wall. The smile of an unknown Jewish girl before being sent to the Chelmno concentration camp, June 1940. In the photo is Geronimo, on horseback, the leader of the Chiricahua Apache, the last tribe to resist the reservations. The Apache fought to the end, 1887. Chimpanzee Jiggs shares the boredom of a shooting day with actress Dorothy Lamour, 1938. A Freak Show, 1924, USA. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Beatles records burned in Waycross, Georgia, 1966. A little boy gives an older boy a flower after arriving at Auschwitz, 1944. All the people in the photograph were executed by the Germans that same day. Skinheads in London, 1980. Nikola Tesla peers out of his laboratory in Colorado Springs, 1899. In ancient Egypt, makeup was worn not only by women, but also by men. Excited girls at the first Chippendales Club, Los Angeles, 1979. Chippendales was a dance troupe, most famous for their male striptease performances. The collapse of a crane on the Al-Haram Mosque in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. 107 dead, 238 wounded. The crane belonged to the bin Laden family's construction company. Soldiers celebrate the end of World War II, 1945. Wrestler Adrian Street with his father, a coal miner, 1973. A Dutch riddle from World War II. To answer the question of where the fifth pig was hiding, one had to correctly fold the picture along the indicated lines. The Witch's Throne, a torture device for women accused of witchcraft. It is a chair with spikes and a heated seat. In 1693, Marina Vukanek spent 11 days on it. She went mad and died without confessing guilt. Soviet soldiers and an officer drinking with Americans to celebrate victory, 1945. This is Teresa Adwentowska from Warsaw, severely traumatized by the war. In 1948, in a residence for disturbed children, she drew home on the blackboard. The oldest documented joke in history belongs to the Sumerians and dates back to around 1900 BC. It goes, "Since time immemorial, it has never happened that a young wife did not pass gas in her husband's embrace." Louise Bundy, mother of serial killer Ted Bundy, talks to him on the phone minutes before his execution. "You will always be my precious son. A mother is always a mother." Soviet and Polish troops liberate prisoners from the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, Germany, 1945. A test of the strength of a kiss on a lie detector, 1939. During the casting for the lead role in the horror film The Shadow of the Cat, 1961. In 1911, two traveling brothers, Lewis and Temple Abernathy, were offered $10,000 if they rode from New York to San Francisco, 2,796 miles in 60 days. According to the contract, Louis and Temple had to sleep and eat exclusively outdoors. Unfortunately, the brothers didn't win the reward. They arrived in 62 days. Still, it's worth noting, the older one was 11 and the younger one was 7. World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz takes off his shoes before entering a mosque during a visit to Turkey, 2007. This little girl was separated from her family, but it was her only hope for survival, 1938. As part of the Kinder Transport operation, Great Britain took in thousands of Jewish children. 8 soldiers of different nationalities in German captivity, left to right. Vietnamese, Tunisian, Senegalese, Sudanese, Russian, American, Portuguese, and British, 1917. Gold prospectors climbed the Chilkoot Pass to reach the Klondike Goldfields, Alaska, 1898. Women prepare anti-tank trenches around Moscow, 1941. The first woman who attempted to participate in an election. When trying to enter the polling station, she was pushed out and thrown to the ground. United Kingdom, 1872. This is a bulletproof vest from 1881, used in combat and blocked 18 bullets. 1991. Iraq announces a ceasefire and withdrawal from Kuwait. A huge column of soldiers was retreating to Baghdad, but President Bush ordered their destruction with bombers. 2,000 burned vehicles, and the bodies of thousands of soldiers were left on the highway of death. School bus, 1930s, USA. Geisha delivery service, Japan, 1901. Sausage charmer, Chicago, Illinois, USA, 1956. A woman on the right is presenting a plastic protective bra for women working in munitions factories, USA, 1943. It was believed that it protected against radiation and other harmful substances. The legendary robber Billy the Kid, a symbol of the Wild West. The only known photograph was sold at auction for $2.3 million. Hitler Rally, 1937. No gathering in human history had assembled as many people. In the early 20th century, Tibet levied about 2,000 types of state taxes, including taxes on marriage, childbirth, the right to sing, dance, ring bells, and beat drums. In 1926, Tibet began creating an army and urgently needed money, and since all the usual taxes had already been imposed, the Dalai Lama introduced a tax on ears. Messengers run out of the White House. The war has begun. USA, December 7th, 1941. An unusual place for strollers in the front of a bus, New Zealand, 1950. Flamingos wait out Hurricane Andrew in a Miami Zoo restroom, 1992. An Alta dressed in a sea lion skin, Alaska, 1900. A man tries to fill a glass with moonshine poured from a window by a federal agent during the Prohibition era, USA, 1925. Special effects in the film industry in the 1960s. 120-year-old Jean Calment, born in 1875, pressing a key on a computer keyboard in France shortly before the year 2000. Chinese mobile phone market, China, 2001. A 107-year-old former slave and his wife listened to a Ku Klux Klan preacher, Talladega, 1948. Lucia Zarate, the lightest adult ever recorded. At age 17, she weighed only 4 pounds. She died from exposure in 1890 after her circus train was stranded in the Sierra Nevada. Emotions at the funeral of beloved leader Kim Jong-il, 2011. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.